So the Bible says in Matthew chapter 7, 24 to 29, that anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds their house on solid rock. But anyone who hears my teaching and doesn't obey it is foolish, like a person who builds their house on the sand. So if we want to build our lives on Jesus, what should we do? Well, I've got 3 things. First, we must listen to him. This is disgusting, but a fun fact about me, or maybe not so fun, is I have really small ear canals, so my ears can get blocked up with wax pretty quickly. I'm sorry, maybe that's oversharing. But when my ears are blocked up, I find it so hard to listen. So I want to ask you today, how is your spiritual hearing? Are your spiritual ears as clean as a whistle? Are you as close to God now as you ever have been before? Are you able to hear his voice as clear as day? Or are your spiritual ears that little bit bunged up? Maybe you're not hearing God as much as you used to. Maybe you're not as close to him as you once were. Or are your spiritual ears completely blocked up, full of wax? Maybe you're watching this today and you don't know God at all, and that's okay. I'm still so glad that you're watching. But just like my physical ears, when they were blocked up, I found it so hard to listen. And in the same way with our spiritual ears, we're going to find it hard to hear God if our ears are blocked up by other things and the things of this world. So if we want to build our lives on Jesus, and if we want to live a life that's different from the rest of the world, we first must listen to him and listen to what he has to say. The second way to build our life on Jesus is to do what he says. The foolish builder in this story built his house on shifting sand. So when storms came, when hard times came, his house was swept away. The wise builder, however, he used God's wisdom to build his house. And in the storm, it stood firm and it didn't shake. So how do we make sure we do what Jesus says? How do we build our lives on him? Well, we do that through going deeper in our relationship with him. Basically, building your life on Jesus is not going to happen by accident. It takes time, it takes intentionality, and it takes practice. But you won't be able to do what God says if you don't take the time to get to know him and get to know what he's saying. So spend time with him, and there are so many ways that we can spend time with God, and we're all made differently. So that means we can connect to him in different ways. Maybe you connect to him through prayer, through reading the Bible, through worship, maybe all of the above. But we can connect to God and get to know him in a deeper way by spending time with him and however we connect. Take it this way, if I was walking down the street and my husband called my name, I wouldn't even have to turn around to know it was him. I would know that he was calling on me because we know each other. We spend time together, we spend every day together, we laugh together, we cry together, and we do life together. Because of all the time we spend together, we know each other's voices, and it's just like that with Jesus. The more you get to know him, the more you'll recognize his voice. And the last way to build your life on Jesus is to live different. Last year, I dropped my phone and the screen cracked, and this was on the Saturday night. So I went to church on the Sunday, and then after church, I went straight to a shop to get the screen replaced. The man in the shop said that it would take an hour to repair. So I thought, that's fine, I can kill an hour. I thought I'll go and I'll meet my husband and I'll do some grocery shopping, and then hopefully my phone will be fixed by then. So I dropped my phone off, and then I went to find my husband, but I realized the only way I could contact him was through phoning him, and my phone was in the shop, so I obviously couldn't do that. So I thought, right, I'll go to the shop and I'll buy my groceries. And I went and I scanned them all and I went to pay. And then I remembered I don't carry cash anymore, and I don't even carry a bank card. I pay by my phone, and my phone was in the shop. So I thought, well, maybe it's time to pick up my phone. And I went out and I went to check the time. But at this point, I didn't even wear a watch. The time was on my phone and the phone was in the shop. So I went to collect it, and thankfully it was ready by then. However, as I was leaving with my newly fixed phone, a thought dropped into my head, and it really challenged me, and it still does. I thought, what would my life look like if I treated God the way I treated my phone? See, I want to live differently. I want to not be able to function properly, even just for an hour, without God. I don't want a minute to go by without him crossing my mind. I want him to have an impact on every decision that I make, from the big ones to even the small ones like paying for groceries and telling the time. See, the world is going to tell us to build our lives on the sand, to just do what feels right for us, to follow our hearts. But the best way to live is to live for Jesus. And he tells us to build our lives on him. He is the solid rock. And following Jesus in this day and age is radically different. And if you follow him, your life will look different from the world. But it is the best thing that you could ever do.